And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. Our latest show we just dropped to all the radio stations around the world and on podcast outlets worldwide. Josh Peterson and I talked about Twisters, twisting down big at the box office. Plus, it's coming out this week, everyone. Deadpool and Wolverine. How important is this film to the MCU? We talk about that, plus the death of Halo on television and more right there for you at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But also as well, of course, Inside Sports Fantasy Football is coming up next month as far as fantasy football is concerned. Joe Soro, he will be back most likely tomorrow. So go ahead and check him out at LakersBall.com. Plus also as well, of course, his company is working hard at SimBlades with a Y.com. Our good friends, John Costa, Clutch Talk and Lakers Corner. Clutch Talk and Lakers Corner. He's going to be back hopefully later this week. Of course, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Yo, Lakers in 5, Empire Jeff TV. All those great places. The Lakerholics crew. Lakerholics.com, our good friend Stone Hansen, all these great places to go. Stone Hansen at report_court. Please support all of them. And then, of course, support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break with a big like and a big subscribe. That gives you the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest Lakers Fast Break podcast. Well, Team USA and its final tune-up today in London before they head off to Paris. I heard that they're actually going to go by boat to Paris, as far as it's concerned. Interesting. Must be nice. But I will say, when it comes right down to it, Team USA with its final tune-up against Germany today, and it didn't look a whole lot better than what it did against Germany. Against South Sudan the other day. Today against Germany, 6 of 17 from beyond the arc, 35%. Not much better. Only 6 threes, but with the Lakers crew. Yes, the two Lakers. Anthony Davis giving them 7 rebounds. Off the bench, 6 points, 7 rebounds, a block shot, 2 assists, but it's the man himself again, LeBron James, scoring the final 11 points of the game for the Team USA. And yeah, leave it to the old man. Leave it to the old man to do it once again as the guys from Team USA pull it out in its final tune-up, 92-86. They're next up, Paris, and I will talk today with Braxton along with his thoughts on the Lakers, OKC, about Team USA as well. But it is, of course, Braxton Reynolds. You got to go ahead and catch him today on the Action Network as far as the NBA coverage they have there, plus Thunderous Intentions. Braxton, it's always great to have you here. Truly looking forward to this conversation. You reached out to me, and I'm always grateful when to have you on. Team USA heading into the actual Olympic tournament itself. Not exactly giving me that warm and fuzzy feeling the way they've been playing lately. Your thoughts on Team USA heading into the Olympics?
Yeah, well, I'm concerned because single elimination, there's no room for mistakes for Team USA. And you kind of look how the roster's built. There's a lot of guys who are used to being creators. There's not many glue guys. Like, they have Derek White, they have Drew Holiday, but they need more guys in that fashion. And I think that adjusting to a different play style for, a Devin Booker or that kind of player, it's going to take time. The first few games, we see them struggling. Partly it's due to three-point shooting. Like you mentioned earlier, they didn't do well today. They don't take enough, really, I think. The volume compared to other teams, they don't want to lose the variance battle there, because if they get cold and a team gets hot, they could be out just like that. So I think they have to increase three-point volume a little bit, in my opinion. And then
taking only 17 is not going to get it done.
No, it's not enough. I think that too, Embiid, it's getting tough for Embiid. He's not healthy. It's pretty clear he's not healthy. and he's not producing like Anthony Davis. Even Bam Adebayo, I think, has outplayed him. That two big lineup of Davis and Adebayo, it's been pretty interesting too. So I think that exploring that, going away from, Edwards, I think he's had too much turnovers. He hasn't been very effective, efficient. I think that going towards LeBron and those guys and the glue guys around him, it's going to be more success. Now, can that happen with the personalities? I'm not sure. I'm not sure with Ant and Embiid, they allow that to happen, but I think it's for the best of the team.
I share that same concern. As great as LeBron is, one of the greatest of all time, whether he's the greatest, that's up to you to decide out there. I'm not going to have that discussion because every time you go down that rabbit hole, it just, it just doesn't, it just doesn't work. Doesn't help. He's playing great now, but he's 39 years old, and your team is now dependent on a 39-year-old player to play at a superstar level, just like the Lakers during the course of the season, where I repeatedly said that this team, the Lakers, are built around a team expectant of a 39-year-old player to play like he's 10 years younger. Now, that's what he's doing for Team USA now, Braxton, but I share your concerns. Embiid does look injured. He does not look fully healthy going up and down. Anthony Davis, from a defensive end, has looked clearly a step ahead of Joel Embiid. And like you said, Bam Adebayo giving you in a couple games some very surprising outside shooting. That's been good. I advocated for Devin Booker to start the other day. Now I may be hedging my bets on that because another miserable performance. I said it to Joe, and he kind of passed off to me, on that, is that when Team USA is hitting their three-point shots, there is no one in the world that's going to touch them. When they're shooting like they are now in the past two games, in the 25%, I think the last game, and then in the 30%, and only making 6 three-point shots, that is concerning. The turnovers, they're not great, but they're not terrible like they were last summer in FIBA. It just does not look like a smooth team, although we've seen times like this before where they go in kind of shaky, they go in kind of half-ass, they'd go in a little bit unfocused. I mean, Kerr talked about being focused against South Sudan when they almost lost. They took a last-second LeBron shot there, and then they go out and they barely beat Germany. I do share your concerns, but we've seen, times before where Team USA has struggled in all these warm-up games, then go in and blow everybody out. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect going into Paris, and I'm really concerned about that.
Yeah, I think that, it's not the dream team anymore. This is not the age where international teams will not do well against them. Canada is a very strong team. Same with France. There's a lot of teams that could beat USA, filled with NBA superstars. So they have to be careful. I think that they can't take it lightly, that because they have so much talent, they are going to end up winning. They have to actually lock it in and play winning basketball.
Yeah, they do have to play winning basketball and hopefully lock it in. And it starts coming up here very shortly. And in fact, I think it is the 20. Let me go ahead and get everybody out. The 28th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 28th is the first game. That is against Serbia. That'll be coming up on NBC. Just want to let everybody know that's coming up at 8:15 a.m. Pacific time. So it is Team USA heading over via boat, from what I've heard. And then congratulations to LeBron himself. Not only does he win the game 2 games in a row, but he does get named the male flag bearer for Team USA. So congratulations to him. He was voted on that by his peers. Stephen Curry, in a gesture of kindness, nominated him. So I thought that was really cool. So yes, congratulations. Whatever you guys think about LeBron James, he is going to be representing our country by bringing in the flag for the opening ceremony. So props to him for that. And once again, Team USA with the victory, 92-86. If you were Steve Kerr, and Tyronn Lue, and you're going in there coming up on Serbia, which should be a tough game, much tougher than the blowout they had against them here last week. Who would you start? Who are your starters? Seeing if you have, and let me make sure that KD played. I think KD played. I didn't remember seeing him on the floor, but I'm not sure KD played. Yeah, no, he didn't play. He didn't play. He was still out. But let's say you have KD back to full strength. Who are your starters heading into the first game against Serbia?
Well, I think Davis has to be a given, and I want to use him like a roamer. I don't want him on Jokic 1v1. I think that going to that 2020 game plan where the Lakers took down the Nuggets, I would have Bam on Jokic, AD as a roamer. I would have LeBron, Drew Holiday, and Steph Curry. I think that balances defense and offense the most. And you get the shooting that is kind of a concern with Davis and Bam, but you get that defensive versatility against Jokic. So that would be my plan. And then, let KD come off the bench, let Booker come off the bench, give him some offense, give him some shooting, and try and pummel teams that way also. I think that if Team USA can just hold the starting lineup, their bench is so much better than anyone else's. So if you can win the bench minutes and stagger it so you accomplish that feat, then you're going to win the tournament. So that's what I would do against Serbia personally.
There's one team that you think the Team USA should look out for, be concerned with. What would that team be?
I think if Team Canada had better bigs, I would want to say them. It still might be them because SGA, they have a lot of defenders. Jamal Murray can cook. They're a very good team. I think they're probably the top threat. France with Wemby and Gobert, that could be interesting because they have some vets around those guys. The defense is going to be great, as we know, with Gobert, with Wemby. Those are the top two threats, I think. I would give it to Canada just a little bit.
Okay. Interesting, though, that France comes in to their own Olympics coming off a loss against Australia. Power to the Aussies out there, just with another great victory for them. So I know that our Australian crew, who are actually probably sleeping right now, when they wake up and see this, they're probably to share some love for Australia because of how well they've been playing heading into the Olympics. So look out for them. But you're right. France, they had better guards. So if, like I said before, if you had the back line of France and the front line of Canada, I may have to pick that team over Team USA because that would be really hard to stop as far as that's concerned. But fortunately for Team USA, they don't have to incur both those problems simultaneously. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out on the 28th. Starting at 8:15 a.m. It's going to be on NBC, so go ahead and check it out there. But Braxton, any final thoughts before we get into the NBA on Team USA, before we get into that?
They better hope that LeBron stays healthy because if he turns an ankle at the wrong time, it's going to get ugly. I think that he is way too much responsibility for the team, and he's too important for that amount of talent that they have. They should not be this reliant on him.
I said to my daughter, because she asked me before I messaged you to get ready to go, she said there was a team MVP so far in as far as the friendlies that they've been playing. Who would you pick? Even though LeBron has been the hero the past two games, overall, I'd say it's been Anthony Davis. I think Anthony Davis has played the best over the course of the I think it's 5 or 4 warm-up games. And I think that heading in, you've got AD and LeBron playing at a very good level. As a Lakers fan, this concerns me because Team USA is relying a lot on two Lakers over 30, one approaching 40. So you said you wanted to talk primarily about the Lakers. So let's go ahead and do that now. It is Braxton Reynolds. Please go ahead and support Braxton Reynolds today on the Action Network and also Thunderous Intentions, part of the fan-sided experience. So, okay, the Lakers, I know that you guys in OKC are not exactly fearing the Lakers right now per se, because OKC is really on a high after what they did this offseason. But you said you wanted to talk about the Lakers, and again, with all that's going on in Team USA, Joe and I both, my co-host Joe Soro and I, share real concerns about how much energy they will expend during the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, injury concerns are very real for these two guys. LeBron, who knows how long he's going to play at this level? The cliff has to come eventually. I don't know when it's coming. It could be 2 years, it could be 4 years, even like 6 years. He's superhuman. We don't know, but it has to come eventually. And every minute, it just feels like it's bringing the train closer. So I would be concerned as a Lakers fan, but if you're a Team USA fan, it's also good to watch him carry the team.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to see it, but I am conflicted because I know how much energy they're burning up, and it's not like they're the 12th and 13th guys on the roster that may or may not get a chance to play and are just working out like they would normally do in the off season. Like, for instance, I'll just say if you're like, I don't know, Derek White, or, even if it's like Tyrese Halliburton, who didn't play today, those guys are just getting not some nominal time. So they're on the back end of the roster. So this is just like workout time for them. So that would be great if that was the case for the Lakers, but it's not. They're primarily relied upon still to this day. So they're top of their games. At the top of their games, the Lakers do have two very, very good players that could go ahead and keep them at least competitive in the West. But they're picked at 44.5 wins here in Vegas. And with all the betting outs with your network, is 44.5 wins. That does not bode well in the Western Conference. That is a play-in at best type scenario. So what are your thoughts and observations on the Lakers? Obviously, they didn't do much to improve on last year's team. So I don't know if that gives you a good feeling or not heading into next season.
Yeah, I think that they had a chance to maximize the offseason, and they really just missed. I love the Connect pick. He's going to be great as a shooter, a scorer, self-creator. That was a fantastic pick in the draft. But free agency, they didn't do anything. They didn't improve on the roster. They didn't really apply the formula that they learned about in 2020, which was get a big next to Davis, get perimeter defenders who can also space the floor. That's pretty much it. That's all you need against LeBron and AD. If you surround them with that kind of pieces, then they optimize, and it's a very dangerous team. So far, they've kept the offensive liabilities or the defensive liabilities. They haven't really gotten that two-way player to put next to him. And, Jackson Hayes, I'm not really a fan of him for playoff minutes. He's not great. I think they're misutilizing Christian Wood. I think that if they actually used him well and put him at center instead of forward, that would be a big boost for them off the bench. So overall, I'm just not very high on this roster from a regular season standpoint. I don't think they're really built to get wins per se, but if they get into the playoffs, they can be very dangerous because of LeBron and AD. I think that they're more of a playoff team that you don't want to see, but eventually the top contenders dispatch in 6 games in the first or second round. They're not going to get a top 3 seed. They're just not built that way from regular season standpoint.
Well, right now in the playoffs, regular season, they have their backcourt guys as far as D'Lo and Austin Reeves. They're great during the regular season, but where problems start to show for both of them in the past couple of years has been in the playoffs. There has been matchups that have not agreed with them, and those guys are one of them. Are you always counted on to be that third guy? If the Lakers could find themselves with a more consistent third option that could be something maybe that helps the team get to that level where your team that you cover is at. But again, as long as you're still reliant on what we have, as Rob, now is right against the second tax apron and really can't do much at this point. So we're pretty much stuck with the team that we have. I mean, the trades, the moves that people keep talking about is really going to be hard for us to go ahead and do unless Rob can figure out a way to try and make a maneuver or two. But I just don't see him doing it, because the simple fact is he's against that cap, and everybody else is already lining up all their spots. They don't, not many of these teams left have available slots that you could go ahead and throw maybe like a Cam Reddish or another unwanted piece onto another roster so you can bring in someone that's a little bit better. You can't do that now. It's getting harder and harder to do that now, I say. So with that said, where does the Lakers, in your opinion, go from here?
Well, they do have matching salary, so they can trade Vincent. They can trade Vanderbilt. I wouldn't trade Russell because they're not going to get anything back that's going to be better. So I would trade Vincent and Vanderbilt, try and package that. They are under the second apron, which means they have to get 100% salary back. They can't take more than they send, but they can still aggregate contracts. They can still put two guys together. So by trading Vincent, Vanderbilt, that's $21 million roughly. You have 2 first-round picks. You have swaps. They can still do something.
They'd have to package, though, with those two guys who both underperformed and were injured great majority last season. They would have to package a pick with that. What do you think they could get if they packaged a pick or 2 picks with 20? That's like, I think, what, 22, 23 million. What do you think they could get with that?
Well, Bruce Brown, he's out there. Isaiah Stewart, I know he has beef with LeBron, but he would be that forward center hybrid that's good defensively, can shoot threes. He would be a guy I would target to put next to Davis. I think that's a good fit. Kelly Olynyk could be an option. Davion Mitchell. There are still guys that could be good role players. I'm just a bit concerned that they're not going to get enough. I think that if they get 1 or 2 role players, they're going to need that third guy. Do they have 2 picks?
They still need that third guy. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you're telling the moves that you're telling me, that they're nice rotation players. They increase the rotation players over the course of the season. There's going to be health issues regardless of that. And the loss of depth is not as much if you add guys like that. Olynyk, Mitchell, the whole 9 yards. Those are really good rotation guys. But like you said, ultimately you need to find an answer as another third player that other teams need to worry about. And that's the problem. I just don't see anything out there that the Lakers can get that's viable right now for them to do.
It would have to be Russell, I think. Russell would have to finally translate that regular season creation and shooting and bring it to the postseason. I think Hachimura, too. He's a guy that can create off the dribble from times. If he has a good playoff run, he could be a 5th guy, 5th scorer. Add in 2 role players from trades like Bruce Brown, like a Olynyk, and they could be a dark horse, I think. They're not going to find the marketing or a player like that. They just don't have the picks to do that. But if they want to go hunting, it has to be for good role players that fit the team.
Absolutely. I mean, as you know, in circles of OKC, what's the new name of the week that's heading to your team? And we have that here as far as in Lakerland. The newest name is Wendell Carter Jr. Last week, it was Zach LaVine. Last week before that, it was Jeremy Grant. Last week before that. And there'll be other names that are coming up each and every week. And it's just like, my first question back to those people is, realistically, can an addition to them move the needle in the right direction far enough? Because you've got a lot of teams in the Western Conference, starting with your team in OKC. And I'm definitely going to bring you back before we start the season off with a more comprehensive team preview of Oklahoma City, because no one knows Oklahoma City better than you, my friend. Although you've got to be really happy with what they've done in the offseason. Again, I know people just get mad at me for my admiration for Sam Presti. And yeah, he hasn't won a title, but the fact that he's been able to accumulate and since 2020, since they were in the bubble, they've been able to accumulate dozens and dozens and dozens of draft picks, been able to utilize them, and then end up in the position that they're at, where they're not only first in the Western Conference, but also have still a treasure trove of assets still remaining, is absolutely a great feat. Plus, he's willing to admit his own mistakes. With I know you covered it, Braxton, when he went out there at the end of the season, after the end of the season, and just said, "Hey, I blew it on the Gordon Hayward trade. I blew it. That was my mistake, and my mistake on that." It takes a lot of guts for a GM to go ahead and have the balls to go ahead and actually get out there and say that. I don't think Rob Pelinka will ever do something like that here on our end. If he does, I would be absolutely shocked if that's the case. Like coming up, okay, we made a mistake in drafting Bronny James. I don't think I'll ever hear him say those words. So that being said, my friend, when it comes to it, you've got to be really, really happy with what they've done so far.
Yeah, I think that for Presti too, there's something that he has that pretty much no one else has, and that's job security. He can afford to admit mistakes. He can afford to think long-term. And after the bubble, when he kind of initiated this plan of this long-term picks into drafting stars, into assembling a super team, he could do that because of job security. A lot of GMs couldn't do that. So it is a privilege that Presti has, which allows him to operate at the highest level. As for his signings, Caruso, I think he's the best guard defender in the NBA. I think that at a minimum, you have to say top 4 for pretty much anyone. And Hartenstein too, he gives him rebounding, hard screening, which they didn't have. Pretty much a perfect fit for both of them. And you subtract Giddey's bad shooting, poor defense, so opponents can't send a center to mark Chet Holmgren anymore, or a forward to mark Chet Holmgren, because the center was on Giddey. So now that option is just diminished for teams. It's a pretty scary thing to play against OKC now, because positionless, versatile, pretty much anyone can do anything on the court. So it's a tough team.
Let me ask you this. If you guys really wanted to, Presti could pick up the phone and call Danny Ainge and say, "I want to make a deal for Lauri Markkanen." I was told that the other day, I think it was Joe that kind of brushed me off, and some in the audience said, "It's not needed to get Markkanen now, even though you have Hartenstein and you also have, of course, Caruso on the team. With the salary cap, you really shouldn't go ahead and even think about that." Your thoughts on, or has the audience in OKC still asked for something more because they're not quite convinced this will be enough to get by a Boston, a Minnesota, or even a Denver if they find some more depth that they've lost, or even a Philadelphia or New York? What are the audience in OKC say that is this enough, or do they think they need more?
I think that at this point, only Boston would be the scary team for them. Minnesota before had size. Now you can play 2 big lineup with Chet, with Hartenstein, and kind of nullify that Towns-Gobert duo. That was really a problem for OKC. You have an answer against Davis somewhat with Hartenstein. Jokic too. There's not really a team in the West that petrifies OKC fans, I would say. I think that clamors for Lauri Markkanen have cooled off. The team is very good as constructed, and maybe that changes at the trade deadline. If something comes up in the early season, if an injury, or they need more offense or versatility, they could use a forward, I think, a backup forward. Lowry could definitely start and then push, Kenrich Williams to that third guy off the bench. So overall, I think that the fan base doesn't really need Markkanen right now, but it definitely wouldn't hurt. Put it that way.
I mean, like I said, if you guys wanted him, you guys could go ahead and get him. I think you guys, Danny Ainge would probably ask for something unreal on the draft picks, and you probably come to some type of agreement on that. But I know that what it would do if you guys got Markkanen would put you guys in a financial place. Is your ownership comfortable with where it would be taken? Because let's say you do get Markkanen, it just takes you sooner to a tax apron place where, OKC hasn't been too much before. If, they don't get Markkanen, when SGA resigns and when you get Williams and when you get, more players signed to their extensions, it's going to get there anyways if you want to keep that team together. So what do you feel the ownership will allow Sam Presti to do?
I think that, this year and next year, it's going to be a little bit lower on spending and try to avoid second apron at all costs. And then 2026 is when Chet and Jalen extensions begin, along with SGA. It's going to be an expensive team, but that's why Presti has picks, because you draft first rounders on cheap rookie deals and you kind of recycle them. So you have Cason Wallace, you have Topic, you have a bunch of guys on team-friendly deals, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe. It's kind of their plan, this long-term plan of stacking team-friendly contracts so that when the extensions hit, it's not that bad for ownership. They have to pay the tax if they want to keep the big three together. I think that's non-debatable. But I think that that's probably the barrier for Markkanen, because the extension would be huge. It's probably $45 million per year, if I had to guess, that he deserves, is going to get at least. So I think that's the reason that Markkanen's out.
Okay. But if he lasts on Utah to the trade deadline, you may want to revisit that. Because he probably will become the hottest property that's out there. That if he doesn't, because August 6th, I believe, is that Kurt and others talked about that August 6th deadline for him. If nothing happens as far as him, look for him to possibly be on the move beforehand. But if somehow he miraculously stays on the team in Utah to the February trade deadline, could be something that people need to look out for, is that Markkanen going somewhere else. But I know that Kurt said, how many picks does OKC have in next year's draft? Of course, I say this with all envy because the Lakers don't even have their first round pick. But Braxton, I don't know if you remember how many they have, but according to Fanspo, they could have as many as 2, 3, 4, 5 first rounders and 4 second rounders. That's just
that sounds right. I believe
a litany of riches. If everything goes right, one of the picks has like a long paragraph on instances of, if it rains on the second day in November in this region of the world, then I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? It's just like if Ella, it's crazy, but it is possible they could have 5 first round picks and 4 second round picks. What are they going to do with those picks?
That's a Presti question, because he has to figure out the roster crunch. I think that a few of them will be used and a few of them will be traded. I think that maybe 2 will be selected, and Presti's going to keep winding back this clock of trading late picks for picks in 8 years in the future. And I think that's how he's going to extend the window of getting cheap contracts around their stars. Just like San Antonio did at the draft. They traded 8th overall for 2031 first Minnesota and a 2030 swap. I think that that's kind of how Presti's going to keep this going. And it's just going to be a rolling pick swaps and trades for every year going on.
So you think the Lakers So the Lakers still have the 29 and 31 they could bundle, and then the 2030 they could actually just give away by itself. So there is the possibility that the Lakers could buy their way. Let's say nothing happens as far as a trade. There is a possibility that OKC could be a seller come next year.
Yeah, I think that if teams want a pick in the 25 draft, and that's not top 10 because OKC is not going to trade that pick.
No.
If it's in the teens or 20s, the Lakers could definitely do that. They could definitely trade a future first for that pick and maybe add another swap or a few seconds or whatever entices Presti to make that deal. So that's where I see the trading mostly happen for OKC.
Okay. I mean, it's there if he wants it. So let's see if Rob actually goes ahead and does that. I'd be interested to see, but that'll be sometime, again, probably just before draft that comes up. But yeah, obviously that many picks with the roster you have already is very concerning in so many good ways for Sam Presti. So I can understand that. But we talked about some of the teams in the Western Conference that might concern your viewers, your audience in OKC on the Western side. Obviously, Boston repeating is something that concerns both you and me in regards to that. But is there any other teams that you're looking out for? Any other teams that you think are going to be a surprise in either the Western or Eastern Conference that you think might match up well to OKC?
Well, I think New York could be very interesting because they have all the wings to throw at OKC, to throw at SGA, Jalen Williams, and Brunson's a problem. I know that OKC has Caruso and Dort, but Brunson is a premier superstar at this point. He's going to average 25 to 30 a game in the playoffs. They're a big problem. Randall's physicality, too, could be a problem for Chet. So New York, I would say, besides Boston as the obvious team, New York would be the team I'm most scared of in the Eastern Conference.
There you go. Okay, some pretty solid stuff right there. JY says, we got to have assets, meaning first rounders, like how we got AD. We need first round talent to trade, not just picks like OKC. What say you, Braxton?
Well, I partly agree with that, yeah. But picks will always be the currency of the NBA, and teams are just enamored with future picks. They can get a lot of stuff, and if you pair that with a decent prospect like a Hood Schifino, who maybe a team could convince themselves to, a reclamation project, you can actually get a decent player. So I think first round picks, especially with the new CBA, where contracts and limiting money is key, they're still very valuable. The Lakers still have a lot of, I guess, ammo for trades.
Mm-hmm. Let's say it goes wrong in LA. Let's say what Joe fears, what I fear, this the worst case scenario for all Lakers fans out there. And it's a terrible season for the Lakers. And AD is miserable. He wants out. He's miserable like when LeBron had the scoring record and he sat there sulking on the bench. Say he goes back to miserable AD and he wants out. Would OKC be interested?
In Davis, I don't think so. I think the money is too much. And with Chet and Hartenstein already set, I think they're good.
Well, I would say Hartenstein would probably have to come back in the trade. Would probably be where you'd want to start as far as back. Oh, okay. The only thing I know that Rob or me, if I get that call and they would want look into Davis, before I talked even about the number ones I'm asking for. I know that I would want some young talent, but you guys would probably want to talk Hartenstein first as far as trade. So okay, I get it. No worries.
If it was Davis from 3 years ago, I would say yes. I think that now he's too old and the injuries are too concerning for Presti to, I guess, send that.
He did play 77 games last year. So
yeah, but you never know with him. That's the problem.
Oh, I know his track history. It speaks for itself. I know that's I can't say I blame you there. So that would be a hard deal. But just saying, if it all goes wrong, that's only a last case scenario. But if it goes right, The Lakers, again, 44 and a half games predicted by both the Action Network and everybody else out there. If it all goes right for the Lakers with what they have, we talked about how little action they actually made. But let's say Dalton does become a top contender for the Rookie of the Year. I think that his top end, if everything goes well, he'll be a starter for the Lakers, and they'll put Reeves on the bench, having come off the bench, because I think Reeves is best effective and most effective as the sixth guy coming off the bench. You put Dalton Connect in only if he gets to that point where he's ready to do so. Let's say all that happened. Let's say the Lakers have the most optimal team and standing that you think is possible. Where do you think that they are in the Western Conference?
Well, from a championship equity standpoint and not regular season wins, I would say OKC, Dallas, Minnesota, Denver are the top four. Phoenix is there. Golden State is there. Memphis, New Orleans. I think that they're kind of in that tier. I would say fifth or sixth in the West for championship equity.
Okay, so if everything goes right, you think fifth or sixth. So.
Probably fifth if everything goes right.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think that's reasonable. That's a 50-win season. That's well above what Vegas and the gambling sites have. So I could say that's definitely possible. But it would take. See, that's the problem, though, Braxton. Last year we had LeBron and AD for 90% of the games. Last year we had three 40% plus shooters. Not as many as Oklahoma City, or your team shot better than anyone, I believe, from beyond the arc last year in the regular season. But still, 40% shooters in your lineup you could throw out there is pretty good. We've got to have more of that and more in order to get to that spot that you're talking of. So a lot of things have to hit right, which is, as I'm going to be honest with you, concerns me, that if we have that and more on top of it. So that means Reeves has to become, once again, a 39-40% shooter. That means Dalton Connect has to be a hit sooner rather than later. And then maybe even someone else on top of that has to have a season that comes out of nowhere. Like you mentioned, a Christian Wood, if he's moved to back to a center and actually plays like the guy that averaged a double-double for 1 year in the NBA. So we'll see, my friend. We'll see. But yeah, great thoughts. I always like to get thoughts of people that are fans or followers of other teams and then see things from the Lakers from an outside perspective. So it helps to get that kind of balance, because sometimes we see things in a jaded fashion through purple and gold. So I always love to get that kind of clarity, Braxton. And you always bring great stuff every time you're here. And you are coming back. Well, you can always come back anytime you want, but you're definitely coming back when we do our team previews in the month of August. And I'm just going to say September, because I can never get 30 experts together in a row. So I can never do that all at one time for 1 month. So it's probably going to be over the course of August and September, hopefully right around time training camp begins. But up until that point, you are still writing at length about the NBA. Where can people go to check out all your great material and all the great places that you are at, and any social media you want them to follow as well?
Yeah, so Twitter, BReynolds200 is where I post articles, and then Action Network and Thunderous Intentions. They have author bio links, I guess, and you click on them and they have all my articles.
Sweet. Okay. All right. There you go. Again, it is Braxton Reynolds from the Action Network now, and also as well Thunderous Intentions. Braxton, it is always great to have you here again. OKC, you know what? Whether you you like them or don't like them, you got to admit OKC has done a great job in such a short amount of time. I know we talked about in the past, or a lot of people have talked about Hinkie and the way he tried to go ahead with the process and build Philadelphia, and unfortunately didn't quite work out the way he had planned. This, to me, is the process which actually Hinkie envisioned doing, 10 years ago when he was first, trying to go ahead and tank for all those picks. Your thoughts on that before we head on out?
Well, Hinkie's plan would have worked. They just were terrible at drafting. They took Simmons over Ingram. They took Fultz over Tatum. They had Mikal Bridges, traded him on draft night. They had so many chances to build a great team around Embiid, and they just whiffed. So the plan itself actually worked, but you have to be good at drafting if you want to tank. And they clearly were not.
They clearly were not indeed. Poor Hinkie finds himself out. Well, I heard he's teaching now, so I think he's been doing okay in recent years. But Presti actually did the process better than the process himself. So there you go. I will give Presti all the props on that, but still got to get the job done. He still got to go ahead and get the title. So everything else but the title is great, but you got to go ahead and get the title. But I've said before on this show, I think that your team, OKC, if it will be a major disappointment if they are not at or near the top for the rest of this decade. How will you feel about that? How would you or your followers be disappointed with all the things that they have and all the assets they have if they are not continuously at or near the top for the rest of this decade?
They definitely should be near the top. If they don't win a title in the next 6 years, I think it'll be a disappointment. I think that they have the talent and the picks to win one. So that's kind of the bar I'm expecting for the team, and hopefully they hit it.
Hopefully they hit it indeed. Absolutely for you guys. And hopefully the Lakers can go up there and give them a tussle and give them some competitiveness, and we can go ahead and, your team and my team win some championships here along the way. But it is Braxton Reynolds. Please go ahead and check out his coverage of the OKC Thunder today at Thunderous Intentions, and of course on the Action Network. Please support him there if you can. Braxton, it is always great to have you here. I look forward to our next conversation more in depth on OKC. I'll be asking you a ton of OKC questions as we team preview the other 29 teams in the league. And then, of course, with the Lakers, any more stuff that you want to go ahead and talk about as well. Truly appreciate it. But Xbox, appreciate you stopping by all the way from Australia, you and Sports Baby. But I'm heading on out. We're all finished. Please rewind. It's a good conversation. We do talk about Team USA. I do give my props to your guys out there down under for beating France. So congratulations for that. Yes, he'll be back. Don't worry. Joe will be there. Joe, you'll get your Joe fix soon enough this week. I'll make sure of that. But once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. We'll be back tomorrow, most likely with Joe. But again, it's always up to him. But yes, we'll be back with more great stuff coming up this week right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.